Hello, everyone, and welcome to a lovely observation of life. And in this podcast, we are exploring awakening consciousness in different layers. And we're trying to understand going through an awakening, how the journey can be different for everyone. And I'm an energy reader, but first and foremost, I started making videos on my YouTube channel because I felt a push from spirit, and I found many masters, Ramana Maharshi, and I was guided from spirit to read and study their work and their lives, and virtually joining different satsangs. Never been physically on place, but I wanted to meet with Papaji. He passed away. He was one of the great masters that taught me a lot. His teaching was very touching, and as you all that are returning to this podcast, I think it was episode 4 that we were talking about satsang and awakening and a spiritual gathering that happens, and satori, an instant awakening, as they call it in Japan. Through these episodes that I'm sharing with you all, it is first and foremost, I'm saying formal many times here. I don't know why this word is entering right now. For all of you that have joined and that feels a familiarity hearing my voice, that feel this connection between us, it is always meant to be as such. And I always do these sharings of love and support and to help, because when we're going through an awakening where consciousness all of a sudden is ripe enough for us to experience a more clear seeing of however we will define this reality, that is when the reality that you before viewed becomes very different from how you will begin to experience life in itself. And for some people, it can almost feel as if a person has changed, like an old identity dies and then you are emerging with spirit and you like different things, you are different. And nothing is strange about that, because when you are asleep, you are influenced by so many different energies that knowing who you truly are or what your pure essence of your soul is becomes very difficult to distinguish what is you and what belongs to someone else's energy, what belongs to your ancestor wants and needs. So the lines become very blurry and confusion easily happens here. And so on this lovely observation of a life, because we are in the summertime and this will be actually the 8th episode of the first season. I really wanted to see what all of you viewers were resonating with, which video had most view, what was the interest. And what I found in this was physical symptoms of awakening. This is a big one. And surely it is a big one here, because when our physical body is, because we are so much in the physical, so when we experience something happening with our physical body that no doctors or anyone can give us an answer to the pain that we're feeling, we are in a state of confusion, and we are trying to look for answers wherever we can find them. So this is completely understandable why one would feel mostly drawn to that video. I completely understand that. Why I want us to, I don't know if I'm going to call this physical symptoms part 2. And before, when we were speaking of physical symptoms, it was more very from point to point, like physical symptoms, emotional symptoms with the mood swing, and just these big points of what happens in the body, the mood swings, the fluctuations in energy. And you can always go back and look at that video to gain more clarity and to see it more simplified. But what I want to talk about in this podcast is, it's a little bit different. I want to give you a little bit of a backstory to why I'm doing this. And because I always said the energy of the earth right now is calling for authenticity. So we don't want to listen to people that use the perfect words or that just make you feel good and it has this intellectual knowledge. We actually want the authentic version, like just very authentic, that it doesn't become a character. It's more of, this is your essence and it's your greatest blessings, and we're sharing that essence so that so consciousness can look at itself from another and enjoy the play that is happening. Because right now it becomes like a shell. It becomes like we are watching a shell, and the shell can be very beautiful. I mean, some speakers can speak with words that are mesmerizing, but that's not what Earth and the vibration and the souls are looking for right now on Earth. Right now on Earth, there is a big shift and a very big difference that will happen in 2027 that will shift the energy even more. And I've spoke about the 3D and the 5D on my channel, which is called the Dimensions of Love. But on this podcast, I like to refer back to that channel, because what I speak of in that channel is mostly to understand that right now, if you are an empath, if you are awakening because it is your time and you are supposed to inspire and elevate other souls around you, then you will be jumping from 3D to 5D. And we jump back and forth in this dimension. And 5D is more different because there are different dimensions there. It's nothing in the physical. So your physical reality might mirror that you're not successful or that you're lacking. But in the 5D reality, you're actually very successful and you have a lot of beings that you're connecting with. So when you understand this, you find the 3D reality quite ridiculous. It becomes like the 3D reality becomes unreal. And again, we're all in different consciousness and in different understanding. And sometimes going through an awakening with physical symptoms, we can go back and we can go forth. So we go forth and we feel clarity, and then we pull back and we are in our ego self and we are in our minds. And it feels like we've lost whatever we might feel that we gained. And even though it might appear as if we've lost consciousness, you never really lose consciousness, even though that they actually use that word when they say, yeah, and she lost consciousness, and that means that you fainted, for an example. But in this understanding, you can never lose consciousness. Consciousness just is. And when you are ripe, you awaken to a deeper understanding. And because there has been so many patterns at play, so many wants and needs, so many energies, now the whole new process begins of first cleansing and clearing. And after that cleansing and clearing, try to find your essence that has been diluted so many times where you don't even know who you are, and to somehow constantly refine it until you are in your purest essence, that you know exactly the scent that you are, that you know that, yes, I'm that lemony scent, I'm that deep chocolate, I'm the musk, I'm the, whatever scent that it is that you truly are. And then from there we start to combine. From there we start to, just like a perfume, we start to combine with people that fit us. So in unconscious stages, we might be with people that we're not even meant to be with. And there's constantly struggles and there's constantly problems. It's because they don't know who they are and you don't know who you are. And now all of these people are just combining and trying to find somewhere to stand, trying to find someone to be with. But I would like to acknowledge you. Don't be afraid to step out and be alone. And not in the sense when we're alone that we're isolating, that we're rejecting. More in the sense of loving yourself and loving everyone else, that you don't want to step into a place where you're not authentic to yourself and to the other, so that you can step in. And just like a perfume is, the mixer needs to know that this is lemon, this is musk, this is the undertone, this is the overtone, and this is the combination of this perfume. There needs to be an understanding what every single part is. The same thing with essence. So when we enter a room and we know our essence, automatically, naturally, we will connect with those that fit, and we will create a synergy. We will create a perfume that is beautiful because that combination works. And sometimes we will try something a little bit magical and we will combine it to something exclusive that has never been. That scent is so rare that it's magical and it's so appealing. So this is what we are doing as souls. This might sound, I'm using different metaphors here, but I really want you to ease into of me trying to describe what the dimensions actually are. And so when we are combining in this way, we are in the right frame in work. We understand what needs to be done in every setting. And we can combine in this way. No matter where you are and what setting this is, it will work. It will be effortless. If we are unconscious, if we just are a mix, sometimes the cocktail mix can be great, okay, and sometimes it can be horrible. that's why unconsciousness is more difficult, because it can't be guided in a way for it to be in its optimal, loving setting. So if we can understand this more simplified, then we can understand the more conscious you are, the more easy you understand things. And like I do this video, I don't have this scripted, and I've even scripted it to be like, okay, this is what the best speaker, they script and they go through it. And I've been on Toastmaster where I've made my speeches very scripted, like point of point, to be the best speaker that I could be. But again, it goes against my natural flow. I just feel it in my soul. I'm not meant to do it like that. It just, even if I could practice that, and I know I can practice it and make it just absolutely perfect, I'm not meant to do it like that. I'm meant to use metaphors, words that come here, that are available in this moment, in this video. This is how I'm connecting to you all authentically, in this way, when I express it like this. Not when I'm following it scripted, and then it just, because I'm in my head and I'm thinking about, and it can be perfect. But for all of you that are authentic and going through an awakening, you can almost sense something scripted. And as soon as we can sense something that becomes scripted, even though it's perfect, it becomes inauthentic. An authentic conversation just happens naturally to what needs to be said in the moment. And what needs to be said will always be correct for the listener, because that's how we're connecting. So I want to say to all of you that are going through your awakening, that are feeling all of this, that have different symptoms of pains in your body, that feel sometimes that, why am I doing these things? I don't even like them. Why am I doing that? This is so strange. It's driving me crazy. I don't understand. This is a reminder. You're not crazy. Nothing is strange. You are just an empath that is going through an awakening, and that is leading with love others, guiding them through this lifetime, because not everyone will awaken this lifetime. But since there's so many that will awaken more than before, every generation we become more aware and more awakening occurs. So we're coming in from more dark, heavy energies into becoming more lighter and more flowy. So in every transition here, we will awaken more rapidly. And if you're a part of that awakening, you also have a lot of energy detached to you. For an example, you might be outside and find someone that is not connecting with anyone and it doesn't speak, but they feel comfortable speaking to you. So they say something very deep, and because I experience this all the time, people say very deep things, very personal things, as they trust me, and they'll share these things with me, and I will have that open space to listen to them. But some people that share that kind of deep personal stories of their existing life, they can start to be detached. And if they're unconscious, as you say, if they are in deep sleep, that they're not knowing what they're actually doing with their soul. They believe that they are just a physical body moving around, and they don't understand that there's more dimensions to them. And they don't see those other dimensions. They don't see their soul that can float away, that can experience an out-of-body experience. For an example, that some can astral travel easily, and others can't even understand that whole concept of what that really is. And it's, again, it is different consciousness. If you're not understanding it, you're not meant to understand it. So don't force anything upon yourself. Where you are and what you are willing to know is how ripe you are. And that is also how dedicated you are. Are you dedicated every day to understanding that I have patterns, I have difficulties, and I keep being pushed back and it's difficult, but I keep moving forward? Or are you just experiencing a shift and it's wow, and then you just go back to your routine? Or the ego says, wow, this was different. Oh, I feel like I'm smarter than everyone else. This is a great way for me to take advantage. And then it continues to live and believe that you're in this ego and that you're a body. But you have a little bit more knowledge, so you're using that in a different sense. Everyone is in different consciousness like that. What I like to say is that I never feel like it's good to go from the ego. If you have an ego that does things selfishly, that is not controlled, that's your pet, that's your animal, and that is your servant. And if you can't control your servant, it will be a terrible master to you. So there always needs to be this balance and understanding. The same way as following your ego, here we can have two different ways of having physical pain. Now, there's two different ways, and I want to speak of these two different ways that are the biggest one. Now, I'm branching out in different ways here in this midpoint of this summer episode of A Lovely Observation of Life. So thank you for listening and tuning in and hearing this conversation. But I really want to touch upon these two different ways of having physical symptoms in the body when you're going through an awakening. And the first one is the symptoms of feeling that you have pain in different bodies, and you'll go to the doctor and they'll say there's nothing, everything's fine. And in one moment you feel you have a lot of energy, in a different moment you don't have no energy at all. Some days you can't eat certain things, other days you're fine, you can eat them. Again, first of all, it comes from the ego, these symptoms that are created. And I want to speak of two that are the most common. Of course, there is the natural one of us awakening and we're going through these pains in our body because there's stored emotion that needs to be released. But mostly when you're stuck in the one pain and the pain doesn't go away because it's supposed to shift and change. If you have a natural way of moving through your consciousness and growing in that understanding, deeper understanding, so you will like open up pockets in your body. Like first you have a shoulder pain, and so the more that you're staying with that pain and try to understand it, it will start to loosen up because you're sitting with the pain. You're not running from it. You're trying to understand, is there a feeling connected to it? Is it what's coming through, without putting the ego of making different stories behind every pain. So you sit with it. You can sit with it in meditation. Of course, if you have too much pain when you sit in meditation, I would advise you not to sit with it. And many other awakened beings that have gone through this will advise the same thing. And me, I always say from my own experiences, when I've tried to push through that pain and sit with it, even though that it hurts too much, it never becomes better. So when you're sitting in meditation and you start to dissolve something and you start to feel it, you can feel it to a point where it's not too uncomfortable. That's when you can continue with it. When I've felt those points when it's become like too uncomfortable, is those times I don't meditate at all. I just let it be. I just let the body, whatever it needs to be flushed out without being rushed out. I just let it happen in its natural flow. And sometimes I've had pains in my shoulder that have been for like 6-7 months and then completely released, completely gone, never to come back. Had no explanations from no doctors or anyone saying where these symptoms are from. Everything looks clear. I look healthy, nothing wrong, nothing in my blood work showing anything wrong. So these are the first symptoms that is a natural way of awakening. So you feel those energies. But then there's a little bit of a clash when the ego tries to take over. Now, in these cases, it looks a little bit different. Then it will be in such a way to where you have a lot of stored emotions, where you've gaslight yourself into not wanting to see the truth, not wanting to acknowledge, not wanting to take responsibility, and just reject. When you do that, then this opposite force, because you're rejecting, and this is for many people that are in this stage, they're very unconscious. They really they're not even, what I've noticed is that people like this they're not even noticing that they're rejecting. And I can see easy on some people, like if you just do this, it will be so much easier. You're kind of suffering for no reason. But they don't understand that. It's something that they need to figure out, because people that are like this, first of all, they don't have a strong character to even acknowledge. So there's too much ego involved. And usually here, I don't want to say to put men or women in different category, but mostly in this category, I have found that it is men. And it is mostly because male has a bigger ego. There is a lot of more built in naturally of an ego that needs to, but most of the time, the strongest one, the best awakened people are male. And that's for a reason. I've done my research and I've seen that. Why is it male? Is it because the male becomes like a big ego? No, the male are the sun. So when the male becomes in its essence of God, when it stays in its true center, it becomes so pure and so beautiful that the greatest masters that have guided people through awakening has been male because of that. But again, it's a two-sided edged sword, meaning that it also can become a burden, because when the ego is too big, it can also keep unconsciousness longer. And it's usually male. And what I find out with male mostly is that when they reject emotions, when they reject of not taking responsibility, where you can't even say to that particular male anything and they will get so aggressive, they will get defensive as soon as you start to even touch upon a little bit to even guide and help them, is when they are suppressing a lot of things. And these males can have pain all over their body and without any reasons. And therefore, this first one with the physical symptoms of the body needs to be understood. So if you are a male and you've understood a family member or someone that has these symptoms and navigates, and you feel very like you walk on eggshells around people like this, because you don't know really where to touch. And usually I say you walk on eggshell, not in a negative way, more in a, when you're an empath, you are really considerate to everyone. And you can really feel the energy, how it shifts. Sometimes that can be overwhelming, because here is the second part that I wanted to speak about with physical pain. And this one is for the ladies, for the women out there. And again, in my channel, I do Dimensions of Love, and we're following the energy, and you can check that out if you're interested. But we're following the energy of every month, and I do with tarot card, just prediction to see what happens. But mostly why I was even connecting to do this in the first place with the moon, I had no idea. I had nothing. I've never researched anything about the moon or the connection or even knew anything of this. All of this is completely natural from spirit. It's nothing that, if you would ask me this 10 years ago, that I'll be sitting here doing this, I'll tell you, you're crazy. I have no idea what you're talking about. That's not true. So if I can say this right now, as you're watching this 10 years from now, you might also be in a setting where you could have never even imagined that you'll be in. So that's the same way here. So I really know from firsthand that it is absolutely possible when you awaken that spirit, your spirit team, the higher dimensional beings, they start to guide you and direct you into what you're doing. You become, in the name of service, you're serving the world, you're serving. And wherever you're meant to serve is where you'll be placed. So it's not like this is an actual a gift or the ego. The ego is just, it's very content and it's very quiet when you are going through an awakening. When you are sleeping, the ego is just barking and commanding, and everything becomes random and it happens randomly. So don't let life happen randomly if you are awakened. Try to connect with your spiritual guides, see what you're supposed to do. And I was guided to do these full moon readings, which I do every month. And I try to do it. I have a lot of things in my schedule and I'm a single mom. So there's a lot of things that I do, but still, this is a calling. And no matter what anyone would say or how anyone would feel about that, I wouldn't even care, because it's a calling and I know that it's pure and it has a purpose and it heals people and it helps. And that is the only confirmation that I need to continue doing what I'm doing. And so whatever it is that you're supposed to do, even if you don't know it clearly, because we go through confusions, that's totally fine. I advise you to continue and to stay there and to hang on, even when it's difficult, because you are going to grow a tougher skin and you will understand more when every lesson is learned and a new lesson can unfold naturally. And so this second one of this physical pain has connection to woman. And I want to say this from a woman's perspective. When you are an empath and you're going through awakening, so no matter where you are in your journey right now, if you're a female and you're watching this or you're listening to this podcast also, I want you to understand that sometimes you can connect with males in your family, in your community, that are very overpowering in your energy. So like their ego energy is trying to take over. You know, when those that have gone through an awakening understand this, but you're going through an awakening and you are more alert to what happens. So for an example, you start to walk outside and all of a sudden when you're walking outside, there's a different energy in you. You feel taller. You feel like it's more ego. You're showing off. There's something that's happening and it's changing and you are aware, as in you're noticing these shifts as if your body was a car and all of a sudden people just decided to enter. And they're like, hi, your door is open. Can I get in? And you're like, no. And they're just like, oh, yeah. And they're putting on music in your car. And you're like, I don't want to listen to music. I was listening to the podcast, A Lovely Observation of Life, I hope. No, but you're sitting there in your car and you want to listen to your podcast. You want to listen to something and you're driving your car. And just imagine these energies, because they are like that. They hold no space for boundaries. It's like when they feel so entitled that they will enter whenever they feel like they want to enter. So can you imagine how crazy that would be if you're driving your car, you're listening to someone just opens your door, metaphorically enters into your car, sits and starts to talk to you about what they want to talk about, puts on the music that they want to listen to, invites someone else, and now all of a sudden your car is filled with a lot of people and you're like, I'm sitting here by myself. What is going on here? And all of a sudden, someone just decides, hey, you can sit in the back and I can drive, and starts to drive. And then you're like, well, this is crazy. Energetically, if you're an empath, if some of you are listening and you felt this and you're like, oh, that's exactly how it feels, and you feel like you've been crazy, you're not crazy. You're not crazy at all. That's exactly how it feels. You are observing these different energies that are behaving in different way. Like I could see these masculine energy, like, oh, I can recognize, even from family member, I can recognize, oh, here comes this energy. Here comes this energy. I know exactly the moment that they entered and that they went out. And it can be so difficult because here, mostly if you're an empath, especially for the woman, and these men that are very powerful in their energy, they're not powerful spiritually, because all of these female that can hold that energy, that is the real power. The female is the moon, so she's dark, and the female that is in the moon and she's powerful and she's dark, she can connect to those energy and she can enter into them and know exactly their flavor, everything, even before they know it. So it's in the moment, it might feel like they have an upper hand, but they don't have the consciousness and the intelligence to understand what is really happening. They don't have the overview. They have the, when something is half baked and you put it in the oven and the bread is half baked, it's not good. It doesn't taste good. It's not sweet at all. And it's like these energies are put in the oven and they're half baked and they realize, oh, it's a sourdough bread in here. I better take it out. And they start eating it, but it's like a dough. It's not as good because you're not ripe yet. And these energies, they're not ripe yet, but they are misusing power places that they are not ready to hold. While females in this energy that are strong, they can feel all of these male energies connecting to them. And doing that, they might feel like, oh my goodness, I feel like I'm the last one to know here. All of these energies it feels like they know. No, it's like spirit can see that you are baking, and spirit will not allow you to open the oven. Spirit will keep the oven closed. And while you feel like this is not fair, because they took out their bread and they're eating it, spirit is saying, just be quiet. I'm not going to let you open this. And you might feel a little bit insecure in this moment, but don't, because they're eating a bread that is a dough. So it's not even a bread. They're going to have pain in their stomach. You're not going to have pain in your stomach because your bread's going to be done, finished, and it's going to be delicious and smell amazing. You just trust us. So that's how the universe works with those females that can hold that energy, because we're cleansing out. A female holds generational family traumas and pain, especially from the males, because they can't hold it. They reject it. What they don't know is everything that they reject, all the females need to clear out. Okay? And so if you are a female and you're sometimes feeling great, and then all of a sudden you have pain in your body, there's nothing strange with that. You are powerful. And you've always been powerful. Spirit is taking care of you. For some things, Spirit doesn't even want your ego to get involved to sabotage for you, because you need to be held to a higher regard because you're doing great. So you have to see these things as protection, as why am I not understanding this? Why don't I know this that they know? See that as a protection. And the more that these other energies are trying to do, that's also consciousness playing its game of you're going to expose yourself if your intentions are good or not, So all of this, it's just a beautiful play of consciousness experiencing itself. And when we have a play, sometimes it's doomed to get hurt, to die, to smile, to win, to lose, to pay for all the damage that they've done. All of this is to make the play more fun and enjoyable. So don't take it too serious, even though that the ego wants to take it serious. And you're like, I have this physical pain and I can't do it. And that's true. I have compassion for all of that. I do understand it. But you have to remind yourself that if you're carrying all of this, you are very powerful, especially in female. And male, if you are suffering from this and rejecting, try to take more responsibility to lift the burden from the female so that there can be a clearing and a cleansing. This is both in male and female energies, that we all have to do the work. And if you can connect spiritually, have that connection every day, to sit in prayer, to sit in meditation, to connect, to be devoted. If you can have that, there will be no pain. Everything will dissolve. You always get support and help from the universe, but you have to ask. We always have to ask. Ask and it shall be given. This is true, but we have to ask. Sometimes we don't ask and we just assume and just take it for granted. So in this conversation, I just want to bring a different dimension to this physical pain, that it's not just black and white. It's just this. It goes in gray area, and sometimes it combines and it becomes complex, even though it's very simple. It's very simple. And it's, again, the polarity and the opposite. Something so complex becoming so simple. But it becomes complex when you're not understanding and you're in confusion, and you make it even more complicated, and the ego gets involved, and it's more and more and more and more. And now you're completely confused. When the more you clear out, the more clarity you have, the more you can sit in silence with yourself, the more you can hear that quiet voice that will give you the guidance. You will have that guidance. But most of the people in the world don't sit in silence. They've never even sat in silence for 30 minutes. To just sit completely in silence quietly without nothing to do, just with yourself. And this is how you find your essence. This is how you will find back to your source. That's how you're coming home, in silence. The more sound it is, the more you're in the darkness. You are in the unknown, and you are not understanding things. It becomes confusion, very confusing over there. When you are in silence, that is when you're sitting with God. It's completely silence. If you go out in the universe, everywhere you go, there's no sound. God is in the silence. I used to say to my kids when they're loud and they start chatting and there's a lot of energies that are influencing them, because I can see that they also have a lot of gifts that they're too young to understand and develop. And so I say, God is in silence. God is in silence. I keep reminding them that quiet your mouth, and then quiet, your thoughts will start to quiet down, and then you can understand, and then you can more clearly decide, is this the action I want to take? While if you start to talk and the thoughts go, you might do things that you might regret. You might say things that you regret. So that's what I wanted to share with physical symptoms. If you have them, sit in meditation. If it's too painful, don't sit too long in meditation. You can actually heal yourself, and you can have spirit guides to help you. And there are different tools that we can use. But again, the most simplest tool that you can do is just sit in silence, and you will be guided towards what you need to know and what is available for you to know. And again, it's not to say to those that are eating their dough and having stomach ache and not understanding that they're not ripe yet, they also get a chance. They will also be asked from Spirit, let's put you back in and continue, so you are, so you can come out and be right, and not be a dough, that you can be a sour bread, a loaf that is good. They also have that option to be provided. So it's not like you've been pulled out and you can't enter, or it's like, no, just don't let the ego jump in no steps of trying to protect you, which is very great, but to overpower and understand you. You need to trust in your soul, and always make sure that you check your ego, check your pet, so it doesn't control, because it doesn't know or see the whole picture. And this might sound very strange because I'm using different metaphors. Again, I'm here to deliver an authentic version of myself. And in this summer, I hope you like the setting. I'm trying to change setting. If there's anything that I do, is that I like to change the energy. And that is in my physical reality, is always mirroring my consciousness, that I'm always shifting and changing. And so everyone that is tuning into this a lovely observation of life. I wish you to always be fluid and be like the ebb and the flow, and to allow yourself to change. And if you're experiencing any physical pain, that however this resonates for you, if you're male or if you are female, however this resonates for you, take what you feel in your heart is calling to you. And I hope that it brings you clarity and more understanding, and that I get to see you in the next episode of a lovely observation of life, where we are growing, where we are observing life, and we are a part of it all in gratitude. So thank you all for being here, loving, sharing, and subscribing, tuning in, taking your time to be here, connecting, and just creating this beautiful energy of a love that is rippling out to the whole world, and hopefully making us tune in to our greatest essence, which is our blessing. So thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day, and I'm sending love your way, everyone. Bye.